Okay, so I wanted to tell you a little story. And the story goes like this. There was a man one day, and he's sitting at his desk job in New York City. And all of a sudden, he has an epiphany. And his epiphany is that he should get rid of all of his stuff and go and buy a farm in the country, and that he would live a more peaceful and happy life. And so he decides to do just that. And he sells all of his stuff and he moves out into the country and he buys this little farm, and he seems pretty happy for the moment. Well, as time goes by, he's going to market to get some supplies, and as he's going, he happens to notice that all the other farmers have cows. Well, he doesn't have any cows. And so he wonders, well, I wonder what it takes for me to get a cow. And so, on his way back from the market, he decides to stop and ask the farmer, what would it take to get a cow? Well, he goes into this particular farm where he notices that this farmer has hundreds of heads of cattle, maybe even thousands of heads of cattle. And so he asked the farmer, he said, hey, I was really interested. I'm new to the area and I was really interested in buying a cow. And so, what does it cost for me to get a cow? And so the old farmer says to him, he says, well, son, he says, you definitely came to the right place because we have some of the best cows here that you could ever ask for. And so you're definitely in the right place. And he says, so what is it? How much money do you have for a cow? And the new city farmer says, well, he says, I think I might be able to spend about $2,000. At which point, the old farmer just bursts out into laughter. He's like, son, you just don't understand. You can't get a cow for $2,000. That's just not something that's possible. And so the city farmer says, well, you don't understand. He said, I'm really new to all this. And I really just need something that I can practice with and learn this and, learn about cattle with. So any kind of cattle that you have, I'm sure that you probably have some old calf or cow that's, around that's, half dead or, stupid or whatever the problem may be that you're just looking that, is a problem and you just need to get rid of it. So the old farmer sits back for a minute and he scratches his head and he says to himself, he says, well, he said, I may just have exactly what you're looking for. And so he takes him out back to the barn, and there's this old cow that's really on its last legs. He says, I really don't know how much longer this cow's even going to last. I mean, this cow is really, really old. So the farmer's like, that's perfect. I'll take it. And he says, it's going to be the whole $2,000. He said, I don't care. He said, that cow is perfect. I'll take it. And he says, okay. He says, well, where's your cart? How are you going to get this cow home? And he says, well, I don't have a cart or anything like that. And I don't even have anywhere to put the cow. I wasn't totally planning on buying a cow. But so can you think maybe that you can hold on to the cow for me for a couple of days while I get somewhere prepared? And the farmer's like, well, I don't know. And he said, just hold on to it for a couple of days and I'll be back. And the farmer says, you know what? I'll hold on to it for a week and I'll bring it because I got to come out that way next week, and I'll just bring the cow by next week. And so the city farmer says, that's fair enough. He said, that works out perfectly. That gives me some time to get things ready. So a week passes by, and sure enough, on the day that he was expected, the old farmer comes down the road and he's got this cart behind him with the cow in tow. Well, he gets up to where the city farmer is, and the city farmer's really excited. Today's the day I'm gonna get my cow. And the old farmer says, "Well, son," he says, "I've got some bad news for you." And he says, "What do you mean you have bad news?" And he says, "Well," he says, "on the way over here, your cow died." And he said, "Well, the cow died?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I figured it wasn't very strong, and she didn't have very many days left in her, but she died on the way over here." And he said, "Well, that's okay. You can just give me my money back." And he's like, "Oh, no, no, no. That's not how this works." He said, "You paid me for a cow, and that cow was alive when you bought the cow. I was just holding on to your cow. It died while it was your cow. So this here dead cow belongs to you. Now, I don't know what you want to do with it, but this is your cow." So the city farmer sat there for a minute and he scratched his head and he said, "Well, you know what?" He says, "Okay, I'll tell you what. Can you just bring the old cow up here and we'll put her in the barn?" And so the country farmer backed the old trailer up to the back of the barn there, and they unloaded the dead cow into the barn, and he went about his way. Well, a couple weeks later, the city farmer was back to see the old farmer again. Only this time he says, "I'll take one of your best heads of cow." He said, "I think I'm ready to go ahead and get this thing going." He says, "Wow, you must have really came into some good fortune." He said, "What brought this about?" He said, "That's an awful lot of money to have come up with in just 2 weeks." He said, "Well," he said, "I sold that cow that I bought from you." And the old farmer looked and he said, "What?" He said, "You sold that old dead cow? How did you manage to do that? And then for $40,000, that's a miracle." He says, "No, not so much a miracle." He said, "I decided that I had to figure out a way to sell that cow. And as such, I decided to have a raffle. And when I had the raffle, I had sold enough tickets to get $40,000 together." He said, "Wow," he said, "that's quite an accomplishment." He said, "But how do you raffle off a dead cow?" He said, "Well, I didn't raffle off a dead cow. I just raffled off a cow. They didn't know that the cow was dead. The only person that was mad was the person that won, and I gave him his money back." So, you see, folks, if you're lacking in resources right now, the point to the story is you just have to change the way that you think, because anyone, and I do mean anybody, can become wealthy and they can experience the life of their dreams. It only takes you having one good idea, and that one good idea can come from something as simple as a dead cow. Hey, have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to us. Freedom Train. You know what to do. Go subscribe. Do it today.